abiding by the school rules? If you are, what are the functions of it? So sit back as my partner and I talk about today's chapter, which is all about the school policies and how they work. Good day everyone, my name is Muriel M. Sanchez and I'm your first reporter.
I am Mary Jo Yamshana and I'll be your second reporter. Of this chapter, you should be able to explain the importance of school policies and school operation.
Schools are institutions motivated by a shared vision. Necessarily, schools must have policies for them to realize that vision and mission. These policies are a reflection of the values of the people who created them. Whatever policies are formulated must redound to the improved teaching learning of learners, which is the very reason of this existence. In this chapter, we will focus on school policies that govern school and community partnership. First and foremost, let's get started with our activity for this chapter. Let's read this. Number 1, group yourselves by 6, then share your answers to the question. For groups 1, 2, and 3, here is a part of the policy on grading given by the DepEd Central Office in DepEd. Order A 2015, dated April 1, 2015. Study the components and the corresponding percentage weights. We have here a table, weights of components for grade 1 to 10. Components: written work, performance tasks, quarterly exam. Languages: AP and ESP. For written work, we have 30%, performance task which is 50%, and quarterly assessment which is 20%. Science and math. Written work 40%, performance task 40%, quarterly assessment 20%. And MAPE, EPP, and TLE which have written work 20%, performance task 60%, and quarterly assessment 20%. For group 4, 5, and 6, policy on students' absences and tardiness. A learner who incurs absences of more than 20% of the prescribed number of class should be given a failing grade and not earn credits for the learning area or subject. Furthermore, the school head may, at his or her discretion, and in the individual case, exempt a learner who exceeds the 20% limit for reasons considered valid and acceptable to the school. The discretionary authority is vested in the school head and may not be availed by the student or granted by a faculty member without the consent of the school head. Habitual tardiness, especially during the first period of the morning and in the afternoon, is discouraged. Teachers shall inform the parents, guardians, through meeting if a learner has incurred 5 consecutive days of tardiness. Activities. All PTA activities within the school premises or which involve the school, its personnel, or students shall be with the prior consultation and the approval of the school head. Financial matters. Such collections shall be made by the PTA subject to the following conditions. If collection of the school publication fee, Supreme Student Government or SSG Developmental Fund, and other club membership fees, and contribution is forced through the PTA as requested by the concerned organization. The amount collected shall be remitted immediately to the school, SSG, or other student organizations considered on the day it was collected. The pertinent organization shall deposit the fund with a reputable bank on the next banking day under the organization's account. No service fee shall be charged against any student's organization by the PTA. Non-compliance or any violation of the aforementioned conditions shall be ground for the cancellation of PTA's recognition and or the filing of appropriate charges as the case may be. Policy and collection of contributions. Cognizant of the need of an organization for adequate funds to sustain its operations, a duly recognized PTA may collect voluntary financial contributions from members and outside sources to enable to it fund and sustain its operation and the implementation of its programs and projects exclusively for the benefit of the student and the school where it operates. The PTA's program and projects shall be in line with the School Improvement Plan or SIP. The contribution should be a reasonable amount as may be determined by the PTA Board of Directors. Non-payment of the contributions by the parent member shall be a basis for non-admission or non-issuance of clearances to the child by the school concerned. The contributions shall be collected by the PTA treasurer on a per-parent member basis regardless of the number of their child in school. No collection of PTA contributions shall be done during the enrollment period. And no teacher or any school personnel shall be involved in such collection activities. Safekeeping of funds, all collection of contributions or proceeds of fundraising activities shall be deposited in a reputable banking institution as determined by the Board of Directors. The PTA's treasurer or a duly authorized representative shall undertake the collection and shall issue official receipts, acknowledgement receipts. In no case shall any school official or personnel be entrusted with the safekeeping and disbursements of collections made by the PTA. All disbursements of funds and shall be in accordance with generally accepted accounting and auditing rules and regulations.
PTAs are prohibited from
Interfering in the academic and administrative management and operations of the school and of the DepEd in general, engaging in any partisan political activity with the school premises, operating a canteen or school supply store, or being a functionaries therefore inside the school or nearby premises, or offering these services to the school as its client either directly or indirectly. Selling insurance, pre-need plans or similar schemes or programs to students and or their parents, and such other acts or circumstances analogous to the foregoing. PTA officers and members of the Board of Directors are prohibited from collecting salaries, honoraria, emoluments, or other forms of compensation from any of the funds collected or received by the PTA. PTA shall have no rights to disturb or charge any fees as service fees or percentages against the amount collected pertinent to the school publication fee, Supreme Student Government or SSG, Developmental Fund, and other club membership fees and contributions. In no case shall PTA or any of its officers or members of the Board of Directors call upon students and teachers for purpose of investigation or disciplinary action. The recognition of any PTA shall be cancelled by the Division PTA Affairs Committee upon the recommendation of the school head concerned by any violation of above-mentioned prohibited activities and these guidelines. Thereafter, the school head may call for special election to replace the Board of Directors of PTAs whose recognition was cancelled. Criminal, civil, and or administrative actions may be taken against any of member or office of the board of the PTA who may appear responsible for failure to submit the necessary annual financial statement or for failure to account the funds of the PTA.
Let's analyze. For all groups, how do you feel about the policies? Are you happy about them or are you happier without them? And why?
I'm happier because school policies are guidelines designed to assist schools in teaching pupils effectively, equitably, and surely in accordance with guidelines.
For group 1 to 3, what if school had no policies on the grading system? What may happen? What are possible consequences on teaching and learning?
I think there should be a grading system. Otherwise, there is no way to assess a student's ability.
For group 4 to 6, what if school had no policies on the students' tardiness and absences? What may happen? What are possible consequences on school atmosphere, on teaching and learning?
If schools did not have procedures in place to address student tardiness and absences, it is possible that incorrect learning methods would have an impact on students and teachers. Late learning would result in failure or poor accountability to pass. Apart from school, those who have adapted better educational opportunities and well-disciplined personality may have negative records. Guidelines should be imposed because if an educator fails to control it, his or her credibility will diminish.
Number 4, for all groups, based on the DepEd order on PTA collections, why are schools very strict with money collections?
Schools are stringent with money collection since it is not the parents' responsibility to generate financial resources alone to support the school's so-called activities.
Number 5, the policies given above come from DepEd Central Office. Should all school policies come from DepEd Central Office? Can school also formulate their own policies? If yes, why? If no, why not?
The Department of Education should not be in charge of all educational policies, where and when the regulation of the Department of Education are inadequate to satisfy their objectives, missions, or vision, though certain players in an educational settings could be perhaps develop one's own guidelines.
Number 6, if schools can formulate their own policies, what conditions must be met for these policies to be surely implemented?
Each school is responsible for developing its own policies. These policies must include a true set of guidelines that adhere to those basic principles outlined herewith, and they must be published in a document that is easily accessible to all school faculty members.
And lastly, what is an advantage of policy formulated by the school community over that policy which comes from above?
A lack of policy leads to uncertainty in selections. Policies are also significant because they assist a school in establishing acceptable processes and setting quality control for learning and safety, as well as standards and compliance.
Importance of policies. Schools in partnership with their community have their own picture of what they want to be. Vision statement, and so must offer services and must do what they are supposed to do. Mission statement, in order to realize what they envision themselves to be. For this to happen, policies must be in place. Observance of these policies ensure everyone in the school community to toe the line. If conditions are ideal, like when all members of the school community are perfect school heads, teachers, students, parents, not teaching personnel, and other members of the outside community, there may be no need for a policy. The truth is, conditions in the school community and in this world are far from ideal, and present that make the school community are far from perfect, and so the need for policies. One may wonder as to why the Department of Education has issued very stringent policies and guidelines for PTAs in matters of collecting contribution. Even engaging in any partisan political activity within the school premises is written as one prohibited activity. There must a history to that. Perhaps malversation of funds and other forms of abuse happened in the past. School policies on the grading system is important for everyone concerned to know how grades are computed. Both students and parents know how grades are derived objectively. Percentage weights of each component are clear. Teachers are guided in their assessment practices. The grading policy ensures objective assessment practice. Without the grading policy, grading may become highly subjective. Similarly, if there are no policies on student tardiness and absenteeism, students may just come in late or absent. The policies on student tardiness and absenteeism certainly will curb the tardiness and absenteeism to ensure learning. Effective policy formulation and implementation in a school community partnership. The policies on grading, student tardiness and absenteeism came from above. DepEd Central Office. At times there is need for policies from above, but policies do not need to come from above all the time. There are times when a school formulates a policy to address a local problem. In fact, this is how it should be in a school community partnership. Ideally, a policy must not be formulated by the school head by himself or herself. The school head must lead in the policy formulation processes. The word lead implies that an effective policy formulation process must be participatory. This means that it is best that the rest of the school and community be involved. Two good heads are better than one. Besides participation of school and community, develop a sense of ownership of such formulated policy which ensure a more effective implementation. This is school empowerment in action. Aside from involving the school and community in policy formulation, a school head must ensure wide dissemination and correct and clear understanding of the policy.
Application. Let's apply. A. Interview a school head on at least one school policy formulated under her leadership. Ask the following. We interviewed an assistant principal in Educational System Technological Institute, Mrs. Maria Teresa M. Liab. She mentioned the policies and rules on discipline. Under of it is different colors of the hair. The sanctions are 4 offenses. First offense will be written warning and conference. Second offense will be conference with parents. Third offense will be preventive suspension. And last offense is dismissal. Question. Why was it formulated? Mrs. Lial said, because I observed that time passes by, many high school students have different colors of hair, especially in males. Number 2 question. How was it formulated? Was it formulated with the representatives from the school and community? Why or why not? Mrs. Lial said the disciplinary board was created to handle different infractions or violations committed by students. They are the one also who are formulating the policies and rules of school. The board are composed of the school president, vice president for academic affairs, guidance counselor, basic education head or principal, and parent representative, which will come from the PTCA set of officers. And last question, does the implementation of policy address the problem for which it was created? If it doesn't, what's the next step is being planned? Report your findings in the class. Mrs. Lial said, yes, on the first year of implementation, students already follow the policy and rules. B. Do a simulation. One of you plays the role of school head. 3 will be teacher representatives. 4 will be officers of the Parent-Teacher Association. 4 are barangay officials. And 4 are other members. The problem in school is malnutrition. Many kids are sleepy, malnourished, and are underperforming. This is true most especially for kids who walk to school 1 hour from home. They eat their baon upon arrival in school, so no more to eat for lunch. As a result, they are restless, inattentive, and so poor performance. You are the school head. Preside the meeting. What policy will you formulate to address the problem? If I were the school head, I will formulate a policy to address these problems, which is the feeding program, so that our children will get the free food to prevent malnutrition. The other members of the class who are not involved in the simulation are observers and evaluators. They will be asked to comment on the simulation at the end of the activity. Here are the specific criteria. Number 1. Participation of the group. Was there an active participation of the group? Yes, there was an active participation of the group. Number 2. School head. How open was the school head, the presider, to ideas or suggestions shared? The school head, the presider, considered each other's suggestion. Next, what did she do to encourage everyone to participate? She encouraged them to participate by addressing everyone to join and cooperate in the meeting to solve the problem. Number 3. Decision making. Was the decision arrived at by a consensus? Yes, the decision arrived at by a consensus. Lastly, respect. Was respect of ideas and participant evident? Yes, it was evident. Letter C. If you were to formulate a policy on food items sold at the cooperative store of your school, which would you do as a school head and why?
If I were to be the school head and had this problem that I would have encountered in my managed school, The policy that I can formulate is entitled Food for the Best, where when it comes to food items that can be sold in the school canteen are only foods that are nutritious, like soup, banana Q, and kamote Q. Because I know that it will help my student and fellow teachers have a strong energy and physical strength every day they go to school. Also, I will implement feeding for children undergoing so-called malnutrition and give help to other children who have nothing to eat during break time because of the hunger they experience while they are just walking to school.
Letter D. Read April 11, 2018 DepEd Memorandum 066, 2018 to 2018 Brigada Escuela Implementing Guidelines. Individually, present a policy that you read in the DepEd Memorandum. Explain what the policy states and why this policy is necessary.
In DM 066 S 2018 to 2018 Brigada Escuela Implementing Guidelines, it consists of different policies that implemented. First is creating a conducive learning environment. With clean water supply, children are protected from water-related diseases and are able to practice proper hand and oral hygiene. Also, clean and functional toilets that have privacy, proper ventilation, and are in visible, safe, and accessible location ensure that children are able to relieve themselves with comfort and dignity. The second one is developing life skill and resiliency. Water sanitation and hygiene education in school, or what we call WINS, develops life skills and contributes to the education goal of positive behavior change for young Filipinos. Through creating a safe environment and developing positive hygiene behavior, WINS contribute to reducing the vulnerabilities of children and increasing their resilience, especially at times of disaster and emergency. WASH in schools programmable. Gender responsive basic education policy. It mandates that a school provide women, girl child, and adolescent friendly facilities that meet the standard for menstrual hygiene management, or what we call MHM. Third is the provision for water supply. For the information and guidance of all concerned, the Department of Education, or what we call DepEd, issues the enclosed policy and guidelines for comprehensive water sanitation and hygiene in school, or what we call WINS, program for the promotion of correct hygiene and sanitation practices among school children and a clean environment in and around schools to keep learners safe and healthy.
This policy aims to ensure correct knowledge and understanding among learners of effective hygiene and sanitation projects. Improve equitable access to safe water, adequate toilets, and hand-washing facilities. Improve hygiene and sanitation practices among the learners to enable them to develop lifelong positive hygiene and sanitation behaviors. And ensure that schools are kept clean and safe through school-based solid waste management, proper drainage, the elimination of breeding grounds for mosquitoes to prevent vector-borne diseases, and food.
Takeaways. First, policies are intended to ensure that the school perform and realize what they have envisioned for themselves. Second, there are policies that came from authorities above the schools since the school is member of a bigger organization or system. Third, but the schools are also empowered to formulate their own policy to address their concern speedily, provided they are not contrary to policies that came from above. School policies are effective when they are formulated with the participation of the members of the school and community, as this develops sense of ownership, which ensure implementation of the family. Policies must also be widely disseminated for the information of the entire system, school and community, and must be understood correctly and clearly. And lastly, policies set order in school. The absence of clear-cut policies may court
Chaos.
The first activity, let's check for understanding. First question, why are policy important in a school? Second, list down at least 2 policies, one from central office and another from the school level. After that, explain the purpose behind the policy. Let's reflect. What is my attitude toward school policies? Do I welcome them? Taking into the net. Research on school policies on attendance, tardiness, uniform, ID, special examinations, and know the why behind its policies. For the last activity, entitled Let Clinkers, first question is, what are PTAs prohibited from doing? Choices. First is interfering in academic and administrative management and operation of the school and of the DepEd. Second, engaging in any partisan political activity within the school premises. And third, operating a canteen, a school supply store, or being a concessionaire thereof inside the school or nearby premises, or offering their services to the school as its client, either directly or indirectly. Second question is, which statement on school policies is correct? Letter A, they suffocate school climate. B, they help ensure realization of school goals. C, they came from above and so by all means be observed. D, they cannot be changed. 3. Which is the most effective way of making policies? A. Is school held to involve stakeholders? B. Is student not to participate since policy are for them? C. Only parents of school enrolled are involved. And letter D. School policy are permanent to build the culture of excellence. Number 4. Why is there a policy on grading? Choices: to fulfill the purposes of assessment, for fair grade computation, for the guidance and information of all. 5. The Sabbath is made for man and not man for the Sabbath. What does this imply regarding policies? A. Policies are formulated to help people in the organization. B. Policies should not be adjusted when people in organization cannot abide by the policy. C. Policies are orders from above like the law of the Sabbath. D. Laws are formulated by men and women in the society.